Well, thank you for joining me for another iTWire video. Today I have with me Ian Duffell. He is the IoT Group Director and Global Marketing Expert who launched the Walkman and the Compact Disc in the UK, headed up Virgin Entertainment Group and opened more than 20 Virgin Megastores, and moved to Australia in 2001 in what is just a glimpse of an astounding career. Ian, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself? There's clearly an amazing history there. And also then moving on to what the IoT Group does, its history and its recent ASX listing.
Right. Well, I started off in the UK and got an amazing break at the age of, I think, 23 or 24 with Sony Corporation. And that was a great opportunity for me because I loved hi-fi and equipment. So I joined that company and managed to rise through the ranks and finished up there as head of marketing.
Wow.
And in that role, I had to visit Japan a lot and saw new products coming through like Compact Disc and Walkman.
And that was the golden age, wasn't it?
It was the golden age,
yeah.
The golden age of Sony, and worked with people like Akio Morita, who's the founder of Sony, and launching products like Walkman and Compact Disc were really exciting and interesting because they were both, through research, were failures. Nobody believed they would work. So proving that wrong and then marketing it and making it a success was a big thing.
Yeah.
In that process, was interacting with the record industry. And,
which is always challenging, I'm sure.
Yes, because they didn't believe in Compact Disc, so that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And through the success of Compact Disc, I was approached by Thorny EMI, who also owned EMI Records, to go in and run HMV, the famous dog and trumpet.
Everybody knows it, yeah.
So moved in there as Managing Director, launched Compact Disc, did that for about 3 years, and had a high street enemy in Richard Branson, which was an interesting one. We were at war.
Yeah.
And he convinced me to join him in partnership and move to Australia in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And set up Virgin Asia Pacific, which I did.
Yeah.
Did that, then moved to America in 1992, set up Virgin in America, and then sold out my interest in Virgin at the end of the 90s because I saw the demise of Compact Disc. I saw the rise and the demise.
It's incredible. You were there for that entire cycle.
The evolution of it, and sold out, moved back to Australia to take it easy, and then got straight back into it again and got involved with the music industry in Australia again through Sanity Records and other things.
Yeah.
Brought Virgin to Australia again, and since then I've been involved with new companies, having fun, investing, and this probably is the biggest fun because it's really breakthrough technology. So
yeah, and this has led you to the IoT Group, Internet of Things Group.
Yes, I thought I was probably a bit too old to get back into technology because it's obviously a young people's business.
Never too old. You're never too old.
But we've got an amazing person who's the founder of the company, who's only 26, and I'll talk more about him later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he is, he's obviously the yin and the yang in terms of him being the new breakthrough stuff and me being the old school. This is how
the wise head. Been there before. And yeah. Now, and you recently listed on the ASX as well, which has really launched you into the marketplace and is going to be the harbinger of greater things to come.
That was a big thing because we had a watch called the OK Watch in the marketplace, which sold exclusively through Coles. That did very, very well as a test market.
It did more than okay, obviously.
Well, it did very good. So that sold well, and on the back of that, we've launched on the ASX ticker symbol IoT.
Great symbol.
Yes,
the perfect letters. Yeah.
Yes, and so we now have a lot of products coming through. And the first one coming through is our new ROAME selfie drone. So,
but you've got 40 products in the pipeline, and these are wearables. I mean, you probably can't say what they are quite yet, but categories? Or Internet of Things?
It's a broad space, so IoT is a broad space, and we've got a lot of connected devices coming through.
Yeah, which is all the range.
Home automation, which is obviously one of the big connected places.
It's huge, yeah.
And other devices that will improve your driving skills and things like that.
Okay, but the big flagship launch is the ROAME selfie stick.
ROAME,
yes. Yeah, and it sounds to me like WALL-E, but what was the from Pixar?
Well, I don't know what WALL-E is, but ROAME came from Selfie.
Yeah.
We actually thought about the success of the Selfie over the last couple of years, And that's been a phenomenon. I find them quite annoying personally, but
The selfie stick?
The stick.
Yeah, the stick, yeah.
Selfies themselves are great, and I just find it's very restrictive. So we thought about the next iteration of that and sort of making the selfie stick on steroids. So not restricted by the length of the stick. So we've created this flying selfie stick. And we had a few constraints on it. It had to be a certain size, no bigger than a 500 or 600 milliliter
bottle of water. Yeah.
It had to have collapsible rotors so you can fit into your pocket or your handbag, and it had to be fairly light and durable. So and it had to be the right price point as well. So it's going to be mass market. So
how difficult was it to
very difficult.
Bring them there?
All very difficult. So,
and it's still yet to fully arrive.
I mean it's I put my marketing constraints on it, and that it had to be certain things, and the tech guy said no, you can't do that, you can't do this. It's taken a year to get to a point whereby we've actually got all of the areas mastered. I believe it's quite a unique product in many ways. So it's about to be released in about 2 months' time.
Yeah, and it takes the best of drone technology and this selfie phenomenon and puts it all together. And it's not just the drone, but it follows you, and it's got some really incredible smarts behind it. Face detection.
I kind of learned something from the launch of the Walkman, because when we launched that, it was really about having your own personal hi-fi. So up until then, you were sort of ghetto blasters and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that being in your own space was a very important thing for Walkman. And Walkman spawned things like iPod, and everybody walking around with earphones now, which didn't happen in the 80s. So we've now looked at the next sort of iteration of the selfie stick being in your own space. So it's not designed to go out and film other people. We don't want it to invade other people's personal space. So it's very much in your space, and it recognises your face and follows you. And that's the key point of difference.
Sure, and I mean, you've got a brilliant marketing campaign where you're going to send one to all the major world leaders, which reminded me of what Russell and Kogan did with the selfie stick. You wanted to send it to Mark Zuckerberg, but you've gone one better. You're sending it to Obama and
I think
David
if you've got a special product, you should start at the top and work down. So we thought, okay, we'll start at the top and let's send them out to all the world leaders.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be. I'm sure Donald Trump will use it. If he gets
you're sending one to him and to Hillary Clinton.
It'd be prime market. But I think people like Malcolm Turnbull would probably find it a great piece of Australian innovation anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. Innovation boom that we're going through at the moment. Thanks to
that's the first base. So the world leaders get them first.
Sure. Now, one of the iTWire readers was worried that somebody would get one and they'd try and use it in a crowded tourist venue. And you were saying it's not meant to be used like that. But I mean, what sort of safety features does it have to
that's important. I mean, object avoidance recognition in the system is part of the technology, so that it won't, it will follow you, and if it sees an object, it will actually stop and hover, or it will move away from it. So if it's going up to a wall, it will stop and hover. If it finds somebody moving, it will move around that person. Sure. So it does have that safety measure sort of inbuilt. And
I understand it has 25 minutes of battery, so when it gets towards the end, does it just gracefully come down to the ground and then sort of land?
It homes back to you so that you can actually take it out of the air, or eventually it will just drop slowly to the floor. And
just as with any drone, you just have to be careful. You just stay away from those blades. That's
we're obviously the instructions on how to use this are very very important, and I think you don't want to be using it in crowded spaces.
Sure. Well, that's just common sense.
Common sense.
And tell us about the CEO, Simon Kantor, a 26-year-old. Sounds like an absolute genius.
Yeah, well, he is a genius, thankfully. He's got an IQ of 180, I think.
It's pretty amazing.
Above Einstein. So, and he's got an amazing background with Google and Microsoft and other companies. He would have normally finished up in California, I guess.
Yeah,
but we've sort of tethered him here.
Yeah.
And so he's surrounded himself with a lot of very smart people, and so we've got a bit of a mini San Francisco in Sydney.
Excellent. Well, it'd be great to talk to him in the future.
Yes,
I understand he's overseas now,
yeah.
Presumably at the factories checking out.
He's in China, and he's doing all this as we speak, and we're about 4 weeks away from getting the first samples here. Excellent.
Well, really looking forward to playing with one myself. I mean, they sound like an incredible technology, and clearly it's only going to get better and better with longer battery life and
we've got
slicker designs.
Things like waterproof version, which is obviously important because you use it if you're surfing.
Yeah.
Things like pin drop, so that you can actually send it off to film and come back.
Right, very nice.
So a lot of nice add-ons for the future, and a smaller version, lighter version.
Sure. And some of those things are just software. Presumably it's just software upgrade. Yeah.
But if you think about, again, the Walkman, it came in a sports version of the waterproof, and it came in all sorts of different...
I remember having a Walkman that was barely bigger than a cassette cover, you know? It's just incredible how they evolved. I mean, one of the other things you might do in the future is have like some sort of a flying selfie case for your phone, where you put the phone in the middle of the case.
We actually are looking at somebody like an Armani or a Gucci to do this designer case, and I think we're looking at other cases with a pack, a place where you can insert it on the side of the pack.
Sure. Now, one of the things I always like to ask the people I'm interviewing, just to change the pace a little bit, is just to share some of the best advice you've ever received to help you get where you are today, just for the viewers.
I think the Walkman experience was an interesting sort of lesson learned, because that was advice from the founder of the company at Sony.
Yeah.
We went out, we used to go out every 6 months to look at new products. We went out to see the early stage of the Walkman, and that was Akio Morita, who was the founder's baby. I mean, he personally created the product, and we didn't like it. We didn't think it would work, and he insisted that we should break down new barriers and create products think bigger. And we went back and researched it, and it failed, bombed in consumer research. Nobody would walk around with headphones on, and went back to Japan. We changed the name of it from Walkman to Stowaway, I think it was called. We said it's not going to work, so we don't order that many. So I think the lesson I learned in that was, it's what they call disruptors today. Don't be afraid to take on new territory, which I think is the ROAME. I think with Branson, my lesson learned there was, to turn your back on conventional wisdom. Everybody told him not to get into the airline industry, and where would he be today? In a record company where the market has died basically, and now off of the airline, he's got all of these other businesses around the world, so he's expanded the brand. So two visionaries in Morita and Branson that I think you've got to learn things from, but they're probably the key things.
Any lessons yet from Simon?
To be watch this space, I think.
And how do you think the tech industry will look globally in a decade? It's probably too soon for teleportation, but maybe not smartphone chips in your brain. I mean, maybe you'll have that little cap that those geeks have with the little rotors. You'll fly you into the sky.
I think
that's a bit silly.
I think it's. I think IoT is where it's at, and I think devices talking to each other. Things like, if I'm in Australia, my mother was in England. If she was wearing one of the watches of the future, if she fell, which she did, I'd know straight away. I'd be alerted, the ambulance would know straight away. That information would be sent to the hospital, so they get her medical records. So all these things would connect. And I think the safety aspects and the communication aspects from that, and the big data aspects of that, the biggest transformation in the next 10 years.
So do you have any final messages for iTWire readers and viewers, and for your current and future customers?
I don't really know, but hopefully I'll be back in 2 months' time and I can show you the actual product. I'm sure you'll be excited to see that. And at $349, it's going to be a fraction of the price of others out there that I should see.
And I look forward to seeing one of Donald Trump's big speeches, and there's the selfies, ROAME's flying.
You just have to watch the hair, because with the downdraft.
That's it. Ian,
Anyway, thank you
very much for your time, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.